Nobody has the right to take the freedom away from another individual and force them and coerce them into slavery of any kind.
There are 40 million people enslaved in the world today. Human trafficking, both sex and labor trafficking, has been reported in all 50 states. It is happening everywhere.
In an area of play, whether we're talking about the Dakotas, the Permian, Venezuela, Malaysia, wherever, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of workers circulating and going through one area, and our industry is mostly male-dominated. Traffickers are going to prey on that very fact.
If something else sold more lucratively, they'd go to that. It's really just that the human being, you can sell again and again and again.
The traffickers are criminal business people. They are looking to make money. This is a greed operation. They see exploited people. They see people without power and a voice, and that is who they are targeting so that they can make money. And it's important that we are all educated on this issue so that we can make a difference.
In the fight against human trafficking, there's been some great industries activated. We see trucking and transportation. Tech is starting to rise up. Oil and gas can rise up. Banking, hotels. There are so many industries. We all have a part to play. Our industry can make a massive difference because of the global impact that we have, because of the reach that we have, because of the dollars behind our industry, because of the locations that we send people to. And if we all lead in this, we are going to help end human trafficking.
Energy powers the world. It powers all of our lives. Your lights, your oven, brushing our teeth, medications, the vehicle we drive, everything we touch, see, feel is an impact of the energy industry on us. You have your oil, you have your gas, you have your water, you have your wind, you have your solar. It's all connected. And everywhere you look, you're seeing that energy being consumed. So there's a huge demand on the consumption side of this.
My name is Liz Williamson. I grew up outside of Philadelphia. I went to Catholic school growing up. It's where I excelled. It's what I enjoyed. I loved to read books. I felt safe at school. But what was really happening at home was that school was the only safe place I had. I used to sleep in the library at school because it wasn't safe to sleep at home, or I wasn't able to sleep because there was men in my bedroom at night. I had parents that unfortunately didn't love each other, didn't love their children, and loved money more. From 6 to 18, my mom sold me to men in our community. She was connected to a family friend who was like an uncle. The ways that they could control me could look like, if you don't do this, you don't really love me. I'm desperate for my mom to love me, and I was willing to do whatever it took. If you don't do this, I'm going to hurt you worse than I did last time. For my uncle, I knew that his violence could be unimaginable. The buyers were stockbrokers, lawyers, doctors, dentists, things with a respectable income. My family decided that there was money to be made in certain markets that wouldn't be feasible to do where we were currently located. The script would be, I'm with my family on vacation to the Jersey Shore. To seem normal, we go have pancakes at a local pancake house. I get to play on the beach. When I come back to my room to take a shower, that's when the other stuff would start. Any large group of men away from their normal comforts of home are ripe for the picking. It could be a convention. It could be a guy's weekend away. It could be within the energy industry, particularly in the oil fields where they would go and visit man camps. I was exposed to the finance world that was heavily male-dominated. I was exposed to the tech world, the computer world, lawyers, and the energy industry, where you would have executives that would come into town for a conference, and they wanted to show their friends a good time. They wanted to spend time with local girls. Any male-dominated field is at risk of being a bullseye target for a trafficker.
we ran operations to find out, would these traffickers travel to our long distance counties? And they did, because they knew that industry, guys are making good money, they're away from their families, and they are going to exploit that. Interviewed several oil field personnel at a truck stop, and I said, hey, let me ask you something. Are y'all really going on Moco Space, Scout, Tinder, POF? He said, so this off the record? I said, I'm not taking notes, there's no recording going on. He said, yeah, after our 7-day stretch, most of the people are on the social media sites to see what girls are out there and which girls will trip out to wherever we're at.
Human trafficking is the exploitation of human beings through force, fraud, or coercion, either for the purposes of the commercial sex industry, and that could be prostitution, brothels, pornography, strip clubs, massage parlors, or in forced labor situations. And where we're seeing that in the United States is in agriculture, construction, magazine sales crews, nail salons, and a third party is making a profit. That's your trafficker, and it is modern day slavery. Force is going to be anything that you can think of. Beatings, rapes, gang rapes, torture, brandings, burnings, electrocutions, deprivation of food and water. Fraud is the promise of one thing but the delivery of another. Promise of a modeling contract, of an acting career, of a music contract. It could be a loving relationship. They will be that boyfriend or that girlfriend that's going to take you away from the life that you had.
I love you. We're in this together. Look at what I've given you. Yeah, I've got a place to stay for you. And then after that is nothing comes for free. Now you got to go to work.
And then there's coercion. That is your threats. Threats of violence against you, threats against a loved one. There are sex traffickers that will film the first time they sell a girl and then threaten to use that by sending it to their parents. And they will scare them into compliance.
I would say coercion kind of ties in with fraud, but it's going to go to the next level of I'm going to hurt your sister, I'm going to hurt your parents. The traffickers love to get the girls pregnant because now I've got a child with you. And now Child Protective is going to come and take your child away, or I'm going to have the child. So out of the fear of the child, they'll continue doing the dates. Traffickers are this. They're both males and females, any type of ethnic origin that you can think of. I've encountered all walks of life. I've encountered professionals. I've encountered 18-year-old kids who are trafficking a girl they met at McDonald's. So their goal is to make money. MOE. Look at any of their posts. Money over everything.
Traffickers exploit locations as much as they exploit their victims. And so they're looking for concentrations of single men. Oftentimes they're looking for large gatherings of people, whether that's a convention, whether that's a sporting event, whether that's a man camp out at an oil field, whether that's the hotels and motels that have built up around pipelines or refineries.
The trafficker looks for vulnerability. That vulnerability could be a mental or a physical handicap. It could look like being food insecure. It could look like being housing insecure, or you could be a runaway in need of a safe place to stay.
All my traffickers use the power of narcotics. Young kids that had never used any type of narcotic, maybe smoked weed, now they're shooting up meth. And so now she's hooked. And now they say, hey, save your money. Don't you want all this? Heroin, meth, ice, whatever we're doing. She'll be like, yeah? Okay, what do I gotta do for this? You gotta do him, and him. Okay. And it's horrible. It is. It's like no crime I've ever seen.
What the buyer hears is that these women want to be there, that they are protected, and that they are just providing a service. And what is the difference between that and any other product at the end of the day? This is a lie.
They told me how to act and how to behave and who to talk to, and that there were consequences if I didn't follow those rules. If I answered a question, it was very much run off of a script. I knew what I could say and what I couldn't say. The men will just think, oh, she's really interested in me and she's flirting with me. It's easier to think that someone is doing this because they want to, because then we're not responsible for, well, what if she doesn't want to? That's hairy and ugly.
There are a lot of indicators of human trafficking. The first and foremost would be if it is a minor, they are automatically a victim if they're being sold for commercial sex. You might have signs of control. If somebody is unable to speak for themselves, they're with another person that's answering questions for them. It could be bruises. It could be clear signs of malnutrition. It could be burnings. Do you have somebody that's a runaway or that's asking for money to get somewhere? Other indicators may be that they're wearing provocative clothing. Do they look like they fit in this place where they're at? These are all indicators that trafficking might be taking place.
So as an industry, Energy has embraced a pillar of health, safety, and environment. So we know we're not going to go into a play and start creating a big carbon footprint, right? And we're going to care about the health of our people. So if we've all come to the table and said we agree and we want to protect these things, why would we not come to the table and say, we're going to look at the social impact that us bringing in an influx of workers, having all these vendors, all these different people in a city that probably doesn't have the infrastructure to support it. Why don't we make a positive social impact or even greater social impact by equipping and activating our workforce to look and to see and to notice and report human trafficking?
Step one, we want you to call 911. If this is an emergency, we need you to get first responders out there so that they can recover the victim from this situation. Then we also want you to call the National Human Trafficking Hotline, or if you're unsure, call the National Human Trafficking Hotline, 1-888-373-7888. Let them know what you're seeing, let them connect you with resources that you need, and relay it to law enforcement as well. When you call the National Human Trafficking Hotline, it's an anonymous, confidential call. You can call 24/7. It's multilingual. They're going to ask you some clarifying questions, and they're going to connect you with resources and relay this information to law enforcement. So when you call 911 or the hotline, if you can have a description of the vehicle if there was one, if you can have a description of the occupants of the vehicle, if you could take a picture on your phone, that's a piece of evidence of either the person being victimized, the trafficker, the car, the license plate, and call while it's happening so that the victim has a chance of being recovered that same day.
Let's just take, a truck stop. You see a girl walking around, knocking on truck doors. Make the call. If you see, your fellow workers contacting these girls and buying sex, maybe have a conversation with them. And if that doesn't work, then you got to keep stepping it up. Does that mean calling law enforcement? Possibly. Does that mean contacting management within the oil industry? Absolutely.
Do you want it to grow? Do you want it to escalate? Do you want your company trucks to be at that brothel when it gets raided by the FBI? Do you want your employee's name to be splattered all over the news? All of that is going to negatively impact your bottom line. So rather than waiting for that liability to occur, take a front-end approach, get ahead of it, be the hero rather than the villain.
Although the energy industry isn't the element out there perpetrating this crime of human trafficking, it is somehow associated back to us because we brought the increased activity to the community. So we have to take an extremely active role in fighting this by identifying it where it occurs and stopping it from happening when we see it.
If you are in leadership in an energy company, we are asking you to train your employees. Make this a priority to explain the realities of domestic sex trafficking and what your employees can do to end it. I would ask you to adopt an anti-trafficking in persons policy with a demand reduction focus, which basically says that anybody using company time or company resources to purchase commercial sex will be held to account. You can make a difference, man to man, talking about this issue with your colleagues, talking about this issue with your friends, really taking a stand for those who are exploited in our society. You can make a difference.
What we are doing is producing the content and the material. For companies, it's a plug and play thing. Here's the information, go plug it into your system. So we are starting something here that's just the beginning, and we're going to see impact across the world.
People will say that trafficking will ruin someone's life, and it is horrific, and it does extreme damage. But when you meet survivors and you see the impact that they are having after they get out, Your phone call might save one person that day, but you don't know the hundreds of lives that would be impacted later on down the line. When I look at the survivor leaders that are in this movement, they are the reason I keep going. They are the reason why I do this job. They have value, and they are powerful, and they are strong, and they are worth your time, and they are worth your phone call.